All right, well, it's been such a wonderful day, and I'm really happy to be last on following all these excellent presenters, and it's such a hard act to follow. So I'd like to begin by just, on behalf of SilverStripe New Zealand, to thank you all for coming. It's amazing to see so much support, particularly in person after so long. And we're just happy that we can still have a semblance of a community after all these years. As long as it's been, this is the 9th year. It's just crazy. So you're probably wondering who I am, because most of you won't have heard of me before some point this year when I started reaching out to some of you. So my name's Noel. I also go under the name Noel, and according to Google Translate and most of my apps since I moved to Belgium, my name is also Christmas. Not sure why that is. Bad software, probably. And I've been with SilverStripe for about 3 years now, and I started around the time Sam last came to see you, actually. Just as I came in the door, he rushed out and flew over to Europe, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. This company goes to Europe on business trips? That's insane. So I began my life as a delivery lead, and did a couple of years working with our teams internally across several of the departments, building stuff mostly for the government and private sector clients, as you're probably familiar with. Then I did a brief stint in sales, and then most recently, when myself and my wife decided to move back to Europe, Wayne came to see me, and he said, I've got this great idea. Why don't we reinvigorate the community? So what am I doing? Why? And well, so I'm going to stick to the script on this one, because I've got a tendency to ad-lib, and it'll just ruin it. So in New Zealand, in the offices of SilverStripe, we could never imagine that our products could have quite the reach and depth that inspires a community of devotees like yourselves halfway around the world, or indeed create and foster such a diverse group of talented and committed people, and we thank you for that. To see the convention in its 9th year, building and growing still, it's mind-blowing, and for us to know that the core of what we do, what we turn up to work every day to do, is being put to such creative and productive purposes, kind of fills us with pure joy. I mean, we don't see this, and a lot of the people back home don't appreciate what you guys do in the field, so really thanks a lot. As a kind of relative newcomer to the camp, I didn't know until recently how much love there was out there for the CMS, or even until I was working in the pre-sales, doing some of the pitches and the RFPs, how much of the world is actually built on SilverStripe all around the world. And so from my beginnings delivering projects on the front lines, I started to notice a trend, and that is that people who work on SilverStripe, the developers, you're a unique bunch. You're interesting, you're multifaceted, you're quite driven, you're eager to solve problems. And I was sort of asking, even way back then, what is it that binds everyone to this product so uniquely? Is it the extensibility? I don't know. There we go. I'm off already. Is it the ease of use that you all find so good? Is it the architecture? Is it because you like being in a cool little exclusive club? Is it just that you're PHP people looking for something different to do? Were you looking for kudos? Maybe a chance to show some skills, do new things, develop some merit with your peers, make a little hustle along the way? Are you a cult? I'm not sure. Could quite possibly be. All I know is that this is the stuff that attracted me to join the company in the first place, and I couldn't figure it out myself. So when I took the first sip of the Kool-Aid, I noticed there was something kind of intangible that kind of permeates through everything that we do. And then it struck me about what that is, and that's why I'm in the role I'm in currently. It's the collaboration, it's the community, it's the people, it's the commitment. So coming over here and particularly getting to socialise with you all, it's a real honour. And when I look at what you've achieved in Europe, particularly the S2 guys and the collective, the way you work together and the way that you've kept the torch lit, it's really inspiring. And when I look around the room and all the skills and all the amazing insights that we've heard today, it's actually a real honour for me and Max to come and attend this today. And we're probably going to come armed with more people next year, hopefully. So it's an even bigger honour to be sort of tasked by the mothership with the job of trying to mobilise and regenerate this community and drive it worldwide and be part of the next evolution and imagination of what SilverStripe becomes. So, what am I going to do about it, you ask? Well, we'll see. So, you've probably seen this slide before. Cheers, Jackson. It's my slide. These are things we know, and these are things we're all part of, and they're kind of like mind-boggling figures that we bandy about, and some of the stuff that Herbert's put on his promo material. It's all like super marketable stuff. And from our perspective, we look at it as being a little bit disconnected. We don't have as much outreach from the farm as you would think we do, even though there's so much work being done in SilverStripe all around the world. So we started to look at who are you? Who are the community? Who are the consumers of SilverStripe? And we know that all the people that are on this list, and it's not exhaustive, it's the people who put demands on our time and get in touch with us and need something from us. Not just the base product, but support, I don't know, help desk support, materials. They're asking us for new features. Who are they? We could probably just put them all under this category. Everyone who works with SilverStripe is an innovator. Yes, I did use the word masochist to describe people who use APIs. So, if you see yourself on that list, then well done, you're here. If you're not on that list, then please send me a PM and tell me what you would describe yourself as, because I thought I'd captured a lot of it. Probably people who aren't on that are people who just like to go to forums and argue about React versus Vue versus Angular. I didn't really want to put that on. That's probably a little bit too much. And the list does go on. So how on earth can we bring together such a broad group of people? Well, the answer is quite simple. We did it before. We're still apparently doing it. And this conference is a big testament to that fact. And from our point of view, we appreciate you all. And we would probably not even exist. We'd definitely be nowhere near as prolific as we are without you. So we definitely, from the heart, would like to thank you for all that, for all your commitment over the last 9 years. So give yourselves a round of applause, please. So this is the mea culpa bit, because what we haven't done recently is anything in the space of kind of maintaining and nurturing you as a group of people, or indeed the community or the partners, or provide you with a means of connecting and growing and progressing. And we know that you're doing that yourselves here, and that's just awesome. Max and his team have been, where's Max? And his team have been doing a job of keeping a flow of comms, I guess you'd call it. But, you know, as he said earlier, it's quite hard for him to separate the noise from the signals. And there's an awful lot of inward communication channels that we have back at New Zealand, and just getting through some of that stuff is a nightmare. You can't really establish what's important and what's not, and it's kind of a lot of work. So that's why we've committed to a community and partnership role, which is me. Hi, everyone. the pandemic set us back a little bit. Everyone's gone a little bit inward. We all know that. We've all rebounded in our own ways, I guess. We've all got used to seeing people's weird faces on like little boxes on the screen and collaborating in different ways. And in some ways that's been a positive, but in other ways it's put a lot of demands on our attention, particularly as digital professionals. It's quite hard to switch off sometimes. So, again, it's a mea culpa moment. We're sorry. We haven't paid much attention to you, so there we go. So what we've wanted to do for a while now, and now we have the mandate to do that, or I have the mandate to do that, is reverse this trend, try to reanimate the vibes, the collaborative spirit, kind of get back some of that mojo that made everything so good in the first place. And now I'm in Europe as well. I'm on a different time zone, so it's not going to be quite so awkward having to speak to me in the middle of the night. So there it is, community at silverstripe.com. I'm going to regret putting this on the internet because I feel like bots have already got hold of it from an earlier presentation. So we did some early outreach, I guess you'd call it, with some forms, and we've spoke to a bunch of contributors in our local markets, and we're here today I'm obviously here today to get your feedback in person and try and make something of that and fashion it into something realistic. But so far, a list of demands has come as this, and I didn't put this on a slide because you can come and speak to me privately about it if you have other ones, and there's another slide later on that kind of covers some of it. So what do you want? You want comms. You want more dedicated channels. You want artifacts. You want how-tos. You want startup guidances. You want more lessons learned. You want marketing support. You want silver certifications or some sort of learning channel. You want collective and collaborative ecosystems. You want to be able to solicit opinions and qualify theories. You want a practice of innovation through experimentation. You want confidence in the product. You want a connection to the wider tribe. And you want a sense of partnership. So here I am. Throw it all at me. As we all know, as agile workers, feedback is the thing that keeps us motivated and keeps things changing, keeps continuous improvements at the very front of everything we do. So, don't hold back. That's the thing. That's the email address. You've got my personal email address, and if you haven't, I'll give you a card later. If you want to be more discreet, then use that channel. If you want to be, flashing some teeth at me, then use the channel in the app. And so everyone can see it. We really don't mind. That's part of our transparency commitment. And this kind of brings me to the other reason I'm here, which is about partnerships. So when I was tasked with doing the role, which I've only been sort of in for about a month, but I've been researching for about 3 months, I'd say. I didn't really know where to start. We've got partnerships already. Most of you have got a partnership agreement with SilverStripe that goes back to the Stone Ages, I'd imagine. It's got some very peculiar legal language in it, and as some of you have told me, it prevents you from using logos or doing certain things with a magic S. I'm not sure why that is. So we understand and realize that partnerships needs to be expanded as a concept. That's not to say that we're not going to acknowledge and reward the OG partners. It's not going away. The original contracts are going to stay as they are, but there will be elaborations on that as we progress into the rollout of this initiative. We're thinking about using a territory model, so awesome. Wells, you guys have already got one. You've done the Europe territory model. Thanks, S2 Herb. Brilliant. It saves me a job. Well, it doesn't save me too much of a job. But, we've got a plan of how we're going to roll this out. Something we've noticed on both the community and the partnership front is that there used to be a bit more symbiosis between the product and the community, and that's in recent years reduced somewhat. And so we'd be keen to find a way to reinvigorate that, I guess. Comms are in need of a revamp. We know that. That's also part of my job. We've been pretty slack in doing the partnership quarterly calls and things like that. And so that's going to start again soon, which is great. And the feedback loop that we used to know and love as part of the communities, there's still elements of that on the Git, but in some of the other channels, particularly on the websites, it's not as prolific as it used to be. And in fact, as part of my research, I found the most productive group of partners is you guys, so well done. Thanks, everyone. So we're going to try and come, that's why I'm in Europe. Well, it's not the total reason I'm in Europe, but it's really handy that I am, because I'm going to try and build on the work that you have done here, see if we can't do something about expanding that out a little bit, and then the mandate I've given myself is assemble an awesome community, drive collective and collaborative behavior, advocate for the product and the brand to proliferate use, and by virtue, increase users, developers, and consumers. So we know we've got a bit of catching up to do, but I think building on the model that you have so successfully done here, we can potentially expand this globally. I've got some plans to certainly expand it. You wouldn't believe in the Pacific region, where we aren't quite as advanced as you guys. Surprise. And in North America, where I've had quite a bit of contact with some of the guys over there who are doing some pretty quirky stuff as well. And long-term view would be that we have StripeCon global. So I know it sounds ambitious, right? It's a bit pie in the sky, but I think it's achievable. So what are the drivers of all this stuff? What is all this spiel based on? You probably ask yourself. Well, according to the outreach that I've done, and this is, again, just the first round of things. What do we want to reinvigorate? Well, you've told us that you need to proliferate the brand. You go to your customers and they go, what? Like SilverStripe? No, mate. Like probably Drupal or something, or WordPress. Have you got any WordPress? So we need the brand to work, and we need more brand out there. So that begins with marketing. It's quite obvious. We've got a wide talent pool that are familiar with the product and the framework. We're just not all talking to each other, and there's probably good commercial reasons for some of that, but you guys seem to have kicked that one into the basket over here in the way that you don't step on each other's toes and you're still allowed to grow as businesses. So I don't see any reason why that can't be grown around the world. We want to be able to leverage the brand upwards into larger engagements, much like some of the stuff that Sylvan was alluding to in his presentation, where at scale, bigger names will win bigger deals, and we won't. So we want to change that. We need to change that in order to grow. We want to be able to recognize and celebrate the use of the product outside of our own organization, because we do have a lot of success in our own market, but obviously that doesn't necessarily translate, because we're 25,000 kilometers away from the nearest person who would care about that kind of stuff. We've already got a sort of a contributory ecosystem of committers and adopters, innovators, advocates. We just want to make it better. That will give us reach into global markets. And this is the kind of list of things we have decided we want, but we want to have more of a quid pro quo, like the old days where there's a community, so we think that it needs to be reborn. We want a boatload of people, not a handful. We want to make sure our product is being used optimally and by skilled and talented people, which it already is in this market. And we want to be supporting our advocates and contributors, because we think that this will increase the dimension of the product itself. And when I went out to the partners, of various partners, some of whom are here, they give me some feedback. They gave me some pretty solid, definitive answers about what they want from us. And most of you will recognize this. And if there's anything you want to add to that list and I haven't spoken to you or you haven't communicated with us, then then this is the list. It just goes off at the critical time in the presentation. Where is it? And why does it keep going off? There you go, sorry about that. So what do you want? You want a strong brand, I've already mentioned that. You want something you can go and pitch and people will recognize it. So for example, like you say, why isn't it in Gartner? You know, that's something I need to speak to the marketing director about and go, mate, you need to sort it out. You want a sense of involvement in what we're doing, where the product's going, and some certainty that, you know, you've all mentioned the roadmap this morning, some of the questions very pertinent, and that obviously we know some of this stuff. We're not trying to cover any of it up. You've told us you need to understand that it's worth the time to invest your skills in our product, and the product's going to continue to run, it's going to grow. You've asked us if you can get support, which is something we've never really done before. It's actually alluded to in some of the partner contracts, and I think we've really not held up our end of the bargain on that, you know, so we need to do something about that. And that kind of is similar to reaching out to Basecamp when you encounter sticking points with some of the what can I call it, the peccadillos of the system, and you need help when you're doing an implementation. Why shouldn't you be able to come and speak to some of our guys who are like the experts in the matter, or maybe they've done it themselves. Maybe some people in the community or the partners have also done an implementation that they just, for proprietary reasons, haven't shared with the community. And so, you know, confidence that you're using and building a product that's going to pay dividends, and the dividend there is as much about time and effort as it is about a fiscal dividend. So all these things wrapped up, what does it mean? Kind of boils down to these kind of thematic areas, let's call them, and these are things that we've acknowledged, and we're going to try to provide in the next financial year. So how are we going to do that? Oh, sorry, yeah, would do that, wouldn't it now? So how are we going to do it? Some really basic stuff, isn't it? It's like we're going to outreach and re-engage. This is kind of first sort of stage of that. We're going to go back and consolidate and develop the materials, some of which we keep proprietary for our own purposes, for RFPs and stuff like that. And Herbert beat me to the punch with his pamphlet. And I'm like, cheers, bro. Thanks for that. But that's the kind of thing we want to see, and we understand that that's the kind of thing you need to take out to your potential clients or add into your RFPs to give confidence to give clients the confidence that this product is actually worth them investing their money in. And so, yes, it looks like marketing content. Training content is something that we are working on, and we're going to proliferate, and I've got some pretty radical ideas about how we can do that as a community. And web content, we're going to roll it out in a structured way. There's already a plan that has begun about that, and I'll share more about that in a bit. We are going to do more marketing. We're going to deliver on our promises for a change, because we feel like we haven't been doing that for a couple of years. And we're going to preach what we practice, which is also something that Max talked about earlier, which is that we have a very unique culture in our home business where we all talk to each other. We have 3 verticals in our business, and a lot of the time product, the agency, the platform team, they all help each other out. So we want to just kind of extend that model, copy a bit of what you're doing, and make that the model for our community outreach. So how are we going to do it? But really how? Well, guess what? We're going to build a website. Who knew that that's what we were going to do? It's going to be on SilverStripe, believe it or not. Yeah, that's the plan, yeah. You would be surprised to learn, or maybe not, that the .org website is actually built on SilverStripe 3. And we've just been so busy for such a long time that it's been on the backlog for like 100 years or more. And now we've got time to do it. Now we're going to rebuild it. Obviously, we're not going to try and directly upgrade it. As some of you know, that would be kind of a fool's errand. So we're just going to completely rebuild it. What's it going to do? Well, the first thing it's going to do is it's going to address the feedback we've had from some of you and the broader market, which is that it's a little bit confusing, the difference with what we call the .com site, SilverStripe.com, and what we call the .org site, which is the OG repo for everyone to get together. So those two things are going to diverge, and the .com site is going to become more about the agency, and all the materials that are like confusingly shared between those two things are being put back in their box. So the .org website's for you, it's for the community, it's for the partners. The .com site is probably more for our domestic market initially. We've got a big old bucket of features that we have decided to develop for it. You'll be pleased to hear it's going to have a portal. That was on one of the slides, I think someone said. And that portal will have access, it'll be access only, and it'll have a lot of the stuff that was on the previous slide available exclusively to community and partners, people that signed up with us, not just everyone. And that's a kind of thing the content people are going to figure out how to split that mold. There's going to be the primary thing we're going to do initially is build a basic website, and it's going to have a demo site attached to it. We used to have a demo site before, that some of you may have used in the past. We've got a kind of like version, I'm going to call it 5.0 of that, where people will be able to just go on, quickly mock up something in that space without giving too much away, and it will be something that can be a pitch point, or it's something that maybe potential clients can go and do off their own back just to see if they like what we're doing, and they'll have limited access to it. It'll all spin up in Amazon, and it'll be really cool. And then afterwards, it'll just delete itself, and then they won't be able to just use it as a website and not engage your services. And content. We're going to increase the amount of content on the site. We're going to update it. As I said, we're going to pull stuff from our own repos. We're going to engage your help in trying to review some of that and trying to make sense of some of that, and even in some ways to contribute to some of that if that's so desired. We'd love you to do that. And in the later phase, we would like to address the concept of learning and development and certification, and kind of reward people for their contribution to SilverStripe, and also create a way that the next generation of SilverStripers can come up through the ranks and prove that they've got all the stuff that we would want. Because let's face it, we're an aging community of people, aren't we? And we need the younger generation to come along. And why wouldn't they? If they enjoy coding, then they should be able to feel the same kind of magic that you guys all felt. So here's a timeline, because I used to be a project manager, so I love just making timelines, and that way I have to be committed to them, and you're all going to go, where's that bloody stuff that you promised us at StripeCon? So here's phase one, we're in it. Re-engagement, bit of marketing, build a base, build a groundswell. .org v1, I am really keen to launch at the beginning of FY24, which for the purposes of the Kiwi tax authorities is March. But we've decided that one of the best ways that we can make it work and be relevant is that we want beta testers, we want the community and the partners to actually have early access to it and be able to play with it, and then give us the kind of feedback that maybe a product owner might give, but we won't call you product owners, because we're just setting ourselves up for something bad there. So yeah, we're going to roll it out, and then we're going to run into phase two, and phase two will be some of the more complex backlog pieces that I described, like the learning and development and the things that we just probably won't have time to do in the first iteration. So, get in touch, why not? Here's another thing that you can get directly to me. I'm going to be getting in touch with a lot of you, and as I said, Europe's my first port of call, because let's face it, I want to recognize some of the amazing things that you're doing out here. So just hit me up if you want. If I'm not getting in touch, please feel free to nag me and say, what you doing, bro? As Max said earlier, I'm going to be coordinating all the community and partnership stuff as initially. So I'm going to be the channel of communication. And if you think that I'm not doing a good enough job for you, then I'm open to feedback and criticism. That's what makes us better at what we do. So I'm in the time zone. You can call me, actually. My number's on the... if I've ever emailed you, you can probably just directly find my phone number. So please do that. And of course, if you haven't already took a T-shirt from me, then please take a T-shirt or two, because we've got some pretty weird sizes going on. So maybe you need something to wear to bed. I don't know if you haven't got enough T-shirts already. And once again, I'd like to thank you all for having us here. And that is my presentation.
All right, good stuff, good stuff. So I'm guessing there are questions. Raise your hand or write in the app. If not, I'll give it over to you.
Well, after today, I hope there's questions for Noel. We've heard from Wayne.
Just paint a target size.
No, from the presentations we've had this morning from Maxime and from Wayne and them, and now you following up as well, I'm sure we have some questions from the audience or from the panel.
I think Herbert can ask his own questions now. He keeps typing them into the app.
Yeah, I had a question. It's regarding with the new approach and the reinvigoration of the community. How do you see S2 fit into all this? S2 Hub or organizations like that?
Like a center point? I mean, it's really, as I've probably said to you privately, or a few of you around the room, why would I not copy the kind of model that you've created here and at least try and build on that? You've already got something excellent running. Like, I see this in my vision of what the future of the community and the partnership looks like. SilverStripe Europe is a territory, and you guys are kind of like the high command of that. I mean, that's pretty obvious. I don't know if you've got any ideas yourself.
But I mean, would you think about communicating differently on the .org side versus like what's going to be an S2 Hub? Do you have any thoughts about that?
That's something I think we need to figure out together, actually, because the .org site is going to be it's going to be about the product and the brand, and that's it, and the community. So it should really have a synergy with the S2 Hub site in a lot of ways. It's a resource. It's something we're trying to provide to help you guys out. We certainly don't want to tread on your toes, but obviously that would elevate the S2 Hub collective website into a more of something to be used for marketing, whereas ours would be more a tool, a resource, a repo, and a way for you, potentially for you to connect with other people all around the world in the partnership frame outside of Europe.
Thank you. Questions?
Come on.
Werner, Johannes, any thoughts, questions? No.
Is there more email addresses? I'm sorry.
It's only two.
What is SilverStripe hoping to get from the community? I've been a long time user of SilverStripe. I think both of us, all of us are here. Yeah, quite a long time. There's been a few changes over the past 2 years, obviously, a year and a half anyway. What are you hoping to get from the community? What does community look like?
For me, it just looks like, I mean, I don't want to be like rude to the community, but it's kind of took a downturn a little bit. It's not as much engagement as we would expect. There's people in this room that aren't guilty of this, but there's certainly people out there that aren't contributing enough. Part of the soul of the SilverStripe concept originally was that it was open source. We were going for I don't know, ambitiously like a VLC kind of vibe. You know, we thought everyone would contribute and it would just build and it would be free and we'd all go and, you know, wear a hair shirt and play guitar in the field and stuff.
Magic.
And, you know, the realities of the commercial landscape and the pressures that we all face as businesses kind of got in the way of that. And I'm positive that we can bring back some of that love and some of that coolness in a way that we can foster some community. Maybe we're all peer reviewing each other's work. Maybe we're helping out with appraising modules. Maybe we're writing documents and sharing the love, training people. I don't know. It doesn't necessarily have to be about showing all your cards of some of the stuff that might be proprietary, for example, that you don't that gives you the edge in the SilverStripe world. That's not what we're trying to do. And something that I've noticed about the way you guys work in Europe is that you don't do that, whereas in our domestic market, we do that. We're very much in competition with all the people who are our partners, which is like, it's nuts. Like, that's not what we're about. We're supposed to be a collective. We're supposed to be open source and cool. And it seems like we're not, but you guys are. So hence why we've come here to speak to you today about this stuff. Try and get your feedback and get your ideas. It's all about collaboration. We are supposedly a collective, and we want that to be reborn.
Okay. We have a question from Lars.
I think I'm not only speaking for myself, that, you know, I'm happy we have a man on the ground in Europe again. So super cool to hear,
Yes.
first of all. But I was wondering, did you guys also consider the commercial model? Like, I get the sense that a lot of people think that open source necessarily cannot go hand in hand with a commercial business, but I don't see that at all. Look at Acquia. Because Drupal, fuck that product. But what I love, I really love about Drupal is Acquia. I think that's brilliant what Dries did. I mean, how many people work now? 500? They do conferences, they sell plugins commercially, they commercialize their open source product, basically.
Yeah.
By providing services, people, knowledge, getting involved in large clients, like actually putting people, boots on the ground, involved in projects. Is it also an avenue you guys are considering at all, or?
So, hopefully no one in New Zealand's still online listening to this video.
Shut down the camera.
Of course, yeah. I mean, we're not that much. We are still hippies, but we're not like super hippies. We can't give everything away for free. We've looked at all the other models, and that's part of the stuff that Wayne and Nick and Jackson are all working on currently. But the reason for me being here is because, assuming that that is the direction we go, and that's not fixed yet, so don't take that as a message, but we still need a community and we still need partners, we still need people consuming the product. So, you know, maybe it does go that way, maybe it's DXP, maybe it's SaaS, maybe it goes in both directions simultaneously, who knows, but ultimately we need to wrap our arms around everyone and make sure we know everyone who's working on SilverStripe and get them to all work together again, like we used to in the old days, before the CMS 3 to 4 upgrade, when everything kind of went a bit awry.
Thank you.
Any other questions? James?
Have you had any thoughts on the positioning of the forum and Slack going forwards? Personally, I get the feeling that the forum is underused and Slack is almost overused. I mean, Slack has its uses for real-time communication, but it's not very searchable. It's not very visible for someone quickly wondering what the SilverStripe community is like. They're likely to stumble across the forum and think, oh, not a lot of activity here. So any thoughts on?
Yeah, that was a hot topic when we did the discovery for the .org rebuild. So one of the features of the new .org site will seek to address that, I'm going to say, politically sensitively. But yeah, we know that. I mean, we're not it's a cross between an IM channel and like a really weak version of Stack Overflow at the moment, isn't it? So like we want to make sure that that's a little bit more workable for people, and importantly, like searchable. Because if you're looking for something, you don't really want to have to wade through acres of text and nonsense. Do
Exactly.
you? You want to find it. So yeah, we're thinking about that.
Cool.
Any more questions from the audience or thoughts from the panel? You mentioned in passing that you had radical ideas about the content.
The content.
That radical ideas triggered me. What does that mean?
I'm going to start a revolution.
Yeah?
I'm going to mention that. It had occurred to me that, you know, best users of the product are already out there. We've got some in our place. I'm sure all of us, individually and as organisations, struggle with the concept of delivering projects on time and on budget for, you know, somewhat needy requirements and clients, and then having the time at the end of the project to fold all that stuff back into something meaningful that you can reuse. Documentation notwithstanding, we've got the basics, CMS training manuals and stuff, but what we don't really have is training for like junior SilverStripers, and in your own organizations you probably have different methods of onboarding people and training them, because yes, it's a really easy to use product, but it does require a certain sort of level of skill to get in on the bottom rungs, right? So my radical ideas were all around like, well, why don't we do something around trying to collectively create those things and maybe use the site as a platform for doing that, and then agree in a kind of like scientific journal style way about peer reviewing what constitutes documentation.
Wikipedia-like.
Yeah, sort of. Let's say yeah.
Interesting, interesting.
Maybe one important info for you, Matt is still watching, so be careful with that. Yeah.
Any more questions?
All right.
All right.
Thank you, Noel.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.